FormAWin for over 4 months now.
Part of the FormAWin community for a couple months now.
I just got my first internship.
I just landed my first internship.
The biggest thing I want you guys to do is take one thing away from today and make sure you implement it, change your life.
100% directly resulted in me getting an internship offer.
Alright guys, listen, so I'm not special. I want to start off with that. I probably failed a lot more than a lot of you combined. So just take that into consideration. This is going to be a message for you guys. I want you to take this and take one thing, apply it, and change your life. You guys come to all these events, you guys come to all these meetings, you guys come to all of these things looking to grow, learn, get better. How many of you have an internship? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you want an internship? Okay, how many of you guys want a full-time job? Right, okay, so this is the big dream, this is the big goal, right? The biggest thing I want to convey to you guys is that every situation we're in, every event that we go to, every networking situation, everything should be done with intent. So this today, I want you guys to take your phones, do not disturb, take notes, go through this and really, again, take one thing. A lot of things that I like to tell my students are, if you read a book and take one thing out of that book, right, and that one thing changes your life, how much is that book worth, right? If you guys go into every situation, every meeting, every networking event with that intent today, right, I'm going to be talking to a lot of you with a lot of messaging, a lot of my stories, my journey. We're going to get into all that. But again, find one thing and actually apply it. Because we're all human. We all go through struggles. We're all looking to get to the next level. We just raise our hands. We want to get internships, full-time jobs. So there's a lot of things that we want to do. And there's one missing thing from you guys getting from point A to point B. I'm hoping to get that to you guys today, okay? And do I have permission to be honest with you guys today?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Thank you. So we're going to get into the next thing in a minute. Are you going to plug me? Well, not yet, but first let's give a round of applause for the leadership here. You guys are part of such an awesome organization. I mean, like I have a little story from my time as a student. I went to UCF as well. Go Knights. The funniest thing is, you know, I've had lots of mentors. I've had 25, 50, 100 mentors, but my last mentor that I had was part of this kind of organization, and they wound up working right next to me at Lockheed, which was kind of cool, right? Because I had the mentor, but I didn't know I was going to be working with them, and then you guys are going to hear how I get to the position, but it was kind of cool to kind of make that full circle. So, like, I love what you guys do. You guys are having an awesome thing going on. All these events, you know, for the SciTech, for example, I think there's only like 3 people going or something like that, right?
There's like 11 of us.
Okay. Well, let's ramp that up, but you guys have that anyways. But you guys should be going to all of that stuff. Every single one of those things are super important. And we're going to be going through a lot, but let's get to the next slide. We're going to be doing a little bit of an introduction exercise. I want you guys to bear with me. This is going to be a little bit unique. I'm going to take 2 volunteers, and if you don't want to be in the video, I'll cut you out of the video, no worries. But 2 volunteers, and the task is going to be to sell me this pen. All right, guys? And I promise it's going to relate. Who are my volunteers? You got one? I'm sure that we can kind of sum what the point of that was, but when you guys go to these networking events or careers or whatever we're going to, instead of trying to just sell yourself on your elevator pitch or just focus on getting the job, you guys need to plant seeds. You guys need to build connections. You guys need to harvest this stuff. One of the things that I really wish that I did, especially in my freshman year just starting out, is documenting every interaction that I've had. If you do that, you can harvest it later, because you never know when that person is going to need help, and you never know when you're going to need help from that person, or vice versa. And it's super important to just give back to the world and do good for society, right? I mean, how many of us want to change the world? Do we? Yeah? Higher? Yes, we want to change the world? Okay. Take that seriously, because that's not a joke, right? Because a lot of people say that, but a lot of people don't do it either. So we need to kind of put that into perspective. With that said, how do we change the world in these situations? Again, every single moment, all these things have compound effect. I'm sure you guys have had relationships or friends or different coworkers or just whatever it is that follow up maybe a few years or whatever the case is, and then you guys kind of make something work, right? But what if you can do that with everyone you meet? What if you're intentional about every situation? That's the biggest thing I want to take away from that, because that's just how you guys should go about these events. It's not just about, okay, boom, here's what I do, here's what, you know, the projects I worked on, I'm a lead, I'm part of this awesome program, right? But connect with them. Find out what's important to them, find out why it's important, and remember that stuff. Because if you remember that stuff and follow up a year later, 2 years later, you never know what's going to happen. Next slide. So next thing I want to talk about is goals and dreams. So one of the things that's really important to me is getting your engineering job. That's a big dream and goal that we have, right? But oftentimes as students, I did this myself, right? You know, you have imposter syndrome, and it's kind of like rough, and we're keeping getting rejected from applications, and it's like, oh man, like what are we doing? And then sometimes we just put so much weight on it, where it's like it's step 10,000 of our whole journey, like up to 10,000. It's like, okay, this is just such a big goal, but step 1, all right, so let me pass this class, let me go to this exam, let me go to this career fair, okay, now we're on step 10. I wanna flip the script a little bit. Let's say this job, this career, everything we're doing is step 1. If we do it from that perspective, then that removes the weight of it, that removes the stress of it. So then we can really look at this and say, okay, we have some big things that we want to do with our lives, right? Again, I mean, we all just said we want to change the world. And this is just step 1. Getting our foot in the door is step 1. So what's the next step after that? You guys need to think about that. Something that I like to do is kind of do like a brain dump exercise with goals. So if you guys have some big goals, big dreams, just make a whole list, 20, 50, 100, whatever it is, right? And then start categorizing them. Maybe an A, B, and C, where A is like 6 months to a year, then a year to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, right? And then that way you kind of know where you're driving, you're not just driving aimlessly, right? So then we have a GPS, we know exactly where we're going. So then we can figure out, okay, step 1, get a job, let me get in there, that way I can change the world faster. And then I'm gonna challenge you guys compressing that A through C to a lot quicker. And that's what I love to do because that way we can have more impact. Now, with that said, I wanna ask maybe one person or 2 people, if you guys have some big, audacious dreams, goals. I mean, we already heard from you, but like if anyone has something that they've been kind of thinking about that's been on their chest, this is your time to call your shot. Right? Crap I don't want you guys to fall in is kind of conforming to, and this is not happening in this group because you guys are like the 1% of the 1%. You guys are all here. This is a super small classroom. You guys have all these awesome events, awesome leaders, right? So the biggest thing is when you start hanging around with people that don't have those big goals and big dreams, right? It's like less likely that those happen. So I want you guys to kind of factor that in, but also wear that and like don't just say that. Like those, like you just called your shots, right? That's what we're gonna do. It could change, but it's still, you obviously feel something big in your heart that you wanna do something big, change the world, improve, build a good life for yourself, right? So go out and do it. And then for everybody else as well, now you know their goals, right? Maybe write it down, maybe connect with them, maybe remember it in a year, right? This is what I'm talking about, being intentional with every situation. So do that, connect with them, that way you guys can remember, and you guys are part of this, so you guys should really build your lives together. Exactly. All right, belief. So this is a big one, this will be super quick, kind of going from this last slide, but the biggest thing here is that I've worked with an engineer before. They're an awesome engineer, one of the best engineers I've ever worked with. Super organized, super detailed, wonderful, you guys would love them. But they didn't have an engineering degree. I want you to kind of think to yourselves, take some guesses as to what degree that was. Think about it, maybe it's business, maybe it's something else. It was music. Music. Not engineering music, not technical music, not just music. So that really just puts into perspective, like, you guys are all capable, right? You guys are all capable of doing all these things, changing the world, starting these companies, doing all these things. So we just need to go out and make this stuff happen. Start having to believe in yourself. What are you doing? What are you not doing that you should be doing, that you know you should be doing? That way you can kind of connect it, install more belief into yourself, and go out and do this stuff, right? So that's going to be the intro. We're going to get into my journey. Let's go ahead and get the next slide. So meet FormAWin, meet me, Michael DeLeo. So I'm an engineer at Lockheed Martin. That's where I work full-time right now. I've also worked at Siemens Energy. I've been involved with the hiring and recruiting processes. I mean, feel free to scan over this. I'm not going to talk to it too much, but you know, it's been awesome, especially at Siemens Energy. I had one-on-one interviews. I managed the whole thing. It was great, such an awesome experience. And with FormAWin, I wanted to start this to make a little bit of a unique group in something, a service that I didn't have that I wanted, because I'm sure you guys have mentors, right? But if you spam them 24/7, you're probably not going to have a mentor anymore because you're going to annoy them, right? So I always wanted somewhere where I can take my career a little bit more seriously than, you know, typical organizations, and I just wanted to go out and change the world and make that stuff happen. I wanted to surround myself with people that want to start these companies that are serious about it, right? So that's how this kind of started. You can scan that. We'll go to the next slide. Yeah, we got a lot to cover here, but my journey started in, I guess, middle school here. That's where we're really starting. I was born in New Jersey, moved to Key West. I lived on a boat, super fun, super great. And then I moved up here when I was around 12 or 13. I went to Millway Middle School, Engineering Magnet Middle School. That's where I really got an intro to engineering. Then I went to Lyman High School, so that was also a Engineering Magnet High School. So I did a water bottle rocket project up here. That was the first one. It says Spiffy Industries. That was my first company out of that class, so that was awesome. I went to Embry-Riddle here. This was a summer camp. This was such an awesome experience. You know, I mean, I flew a plane here until the pilot had to take over because we were about to crash, but that's okay. And then I played football. I had an internship in high school as well. This was like a 4-week internship. Super awesome, super educational. I was co-president of Mu Alpha Theta. This was kind of my bloodline because I felt like the main president, if you guys know what I mean. And I love doing that. That was my first intro to leadership as well. And then we had a senior design project there as well. We did a programmable phone case, and I loved every second of this. So next slide, we'll get into college. So I started my journey in AIAA. I was vice president there, and I worked that up from being a hovercraft lead to then doing hovercraft, then getting to a hovercraft lead, and then becoming the vice president. That was awesome. I love that experience. We went on a private tour like you guys go on, all those experiences, all those days, make sure you document and take pictures. You guys need to remember everything. I wish I did so more, but I have enough for now. And then I did Lead Scholars. Lead Scholars was super cool as well. Do you guys know what Lead Scholars is? Okay, cool. So I love that. I led my own team there. I went to summer camps. Again, super fun, super awesome. I did a CWEP program, so I started that my freshman summer. I did F-35 EOS. That was my first program in manufacturing. I loved it. It was cool, but it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. And then we're gonna remember this red X here a little bit later. We're gonna cover it in a minute. And then I worked at UFID. You guys can see there. That's the team. I did a lot of marketing there. I worked in the sales department. It was awesome. If you guys are looking for something to learn and grow, you guys should get maybe a part-time sales position, get some cash in your project or pocket. But that's also gonna help you guys sell yourself, because selling yourself is super important. In all these situations, every networking event, everything that you go to, that's probably the number one thing that's underrated in all of engineering is networking. And this organization that you guys are part of, believing soft skills and growing is super important, but also sales as well, right? So if you guys take that, you guys apply that to different meetings, right? Because you're always just trying to push an agenda, no matter what company you're with or what project you're working on. And you guys always need to kind of bring the team together. And that starts with sales. It's like, yes, you need to have technical knowledge, but you need to have sales experience as well. So anyways, that's where I started there. NASA L-Space is a free program. You guys should all apply to it. It's awesome. It is time intensive, but it's super rewarding. I learned a lot there. Gives you great industry experience as well. And now we get into the next slide. COVID hit. Oh no. What do we think happened? Well, I got a call, right? And this was from my manager at Lockheed. They said, "Hey Michael, we're letting you go." It's not because of COVID though. It's because of your performance. I wasn't doing a good job. I wasn't doing a good job, guys. I was showing up late. I wasn't doing very good. I was struggling. And I got the call. They said, due to your performance. It happened to be in the same week that it was COVID, so maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. All I know is that they told me it's because of my performance, right? So now I'm stressed out. Let's go to the next slide. So what am I gonna do? Okay, so maybe I'll go get a master's degree because that'll give me more time, right? So then that way I can get my foot back in the door. Maybe I can do a little bit more there. Okay, so so that's option number one. Number two, maybe I'll get into research. Okay, because that's kind of, okay, that might get me back into a company. That might, okay, cool, good, okay. Or do I just stay at UFIT forever? Because obviously I just failed life here, right? So what do? Donna here is a cool example, a little tip and trick for you guys. There's staffing services. There's lots of different places that you guys can go find different jobs. What I was going to do was I was going to work as a tech assembler, not directly engineering, but then my strategy here was, okay, I was going to go in there, and I was about to accept this before we get into the next stuff, not yet, but I was about to get in there, and then I was going to say, okay, I'm going to be the best at this, and then when I get closer to graduation, I'm going to excel so much that they just offer me a job, right? And that's a good strategy, so you guys can do that too, depending on where you're at. If there's an awesome staffing service or company near you that you guys can do something like that, that's a good tip and trick. But after this, I was stressed out, so I went to the gym. I don't know how someone got a live photo of me here. I don't know how they did it, but I got a phone call at the gym. Next slide. So this was me in the gym, and they, so next slide. So this was real. I did get a call at the gym. I was like, all right, what is this number? I guess I should take it. Ring, ring, ring. Hey Michael, how's it going? Good, going pretty good. Who's this? X, Y, and Z with Lockheed Martin. I ran out of the gym. I had to mute. Michael, are you still there? Yes, I'm here. How's it going? Anyways, so that led to me getting another CWAP position. So pretty cool. I got into company again. I did really good. I aced the interview, and I learned from my mistakes. And how many of you guys have a normal resume, like just a standard one-page resume? You guys all have that? Is that kind of your primary resume, right? Well, next slide is the resume that got me hired. With my picture, my favorite quote. This is like 3 pages. This wasn't the exact one, but it was basically the same thing. And I just did me. I was creative. And the biggest thing I can tell you guys, again, is not to conform to society or what you guys might hear other people doing, right? You guys need to be creative. If we're gonna have these big audacious goals and go change the world, we have to be different, right? That's just the natural definition of doing that kind of stuff. So this is something that I did that got me to the next position. So next slide. My journey here, so this is still in college, right? So I worked for the engineering process group. This is where we kind of manage processes throughout the company and updated different standards and procedures. I loved it. I worked from home. That wasn't my work from home desk, but I thought it was cool, so it kind of makes the point. And I love the position. It was so awesome. My manager was great, and I did really good, guys. I did really, really good. And then that was my senior design project. I worked on it with my buddy Kevin. We had a drone project. It was great. It was kind of just us on a team of 8 doing all the work. I'm sure you guys can probably relate to that. So it was really cool. But then I also worked at Siemens Energy. Now, I was a contractor for UCF, and worked at Lockheed Martin, right? That's how the CWAP position works. So I found this through a staffing service. At the time I was working at restaurants, I was trying to make ends meet because I was providing for myself. And then I hurt my back, so I was looking for a different position. I found this on Indeed. I applied to it. It was something about business. It was super cool. It was like a startup initiative at Siemens. It was just me and my manager doing some awesome stuff. So I loved every second of it. It was big umbrella. It was connecting manufacturers to services that they needed, like changing turbines or cleaning them or maintaining them. So we kind of built up the whole thing. So it was awesome. But I was a contractor there as well. Key detail for later. And then that was our first in-person meetup at Lockheed. So I loved every second of it. And next slide, we graduated. Woo, me and my buddy Kevin, we did it, we made it. Yes. Next slide. Wait, next. What about the full-time offer, right? What are we doing? I got 2 positions. Okay, where am I gonna work? What do we got going on? And, well, I got another phone call. So, this time I wasn't at the gym. Next slide, but I had to do that. So I did get a phone call. It was my manager. I was applying for positions at the time. They asked, hey, Michael, I just wanted to connect with you. It was my manager at Lockheed. They said, hey, I saw you apply for the position. The manager reached out to me, but they had a question. How are you working at Siemens Energy and Lockheed at the same time? Ooh, well, I cleared it. I'm working there, yeah. And, the biggest thing is, I was good at the end of the day. I did clear it with, UCF and the staffing service, and everything was fine, wound up not being a problem. But sometimes when you guys go do these big things, you guys have these big goals, and you guys go work a little bit harder, sometimes people put you in a box, because if you're doing too much, they're like, whoa, no, you can't do that much, that's gonna stress you out, that's too much work, that's, right, and I didn't want to be put in that box, because, they don't know me. And with that said, Lockheed wound up sending me an offer within 24 hours. Not the whole HR 2-week turnaround, not the whole, okay, we need to go process this with the whole 12 HR managers and go through this whole process, right? Because I'm sure you guys have all heard, oh, we're not hiring this season, or whatever it is, right? Again, you guys can make your own opportunities. You guys can, at the end of the day, these are businesses. If you add value to the business, they're gonna get you. So not only did they send me a full-time offer, they made me an offer to be an intern for the last 3 months while I was graduating. So it was kind of like a 2-offer deal. It was awesome. Next slide. Then we get into it. So I can't talk about exactly what I do, but to give you an example, let's say I work on a house. I'm a requirements engineer. This house has lots of requirements. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that to an extent. So the door has to be a certain weight, it has to last a certain amount of time. The window has to withstand a certain amount of pressure. The pipes have to do X, Y, and Z. So there's easily thousands of requirements, right? So that's kind of what I do. I work on a team managing the requirements. I was a scrum master, which was just leading the team in terms of organization, tasking, and make sure everybody was getting things done. Love that. Lead FRB investigator. Let's just say one of the pipes break in the house or something. Okay, well, what do we do? Okay, well, let's take the pipe out, let's investigate it, let's scan it, let's see, okay, well, let's try this type of solution. Okay, that didn't work, okay, let's fix it, let's take it apart. So I was kind of working with the team that said, all right, we got the technical people working on the structural part of the pipe, the thermal part of the pipe, the X, Y, and Z part of the pipe, and I was here managing the whole situation. I loved it, and I'm still doing that to this day. And then that led to me doing some test engineering as well. So in terms of systems engineering, because that's my role, I have a pretty good breadth of that entire thing, and I love it. It's awesome. That was a work trip that I went to Utah. And then we talk about FormAWin here. So it started as KM Solutions with me and my buddy Kevin, and then eventually we kind of fell off and it turned into FormAWin. My favorite color was blue. I was thinking of naming it Astromet, but that didn't really sit too well. Astromet, like astronaut, and mentor, but no, that didn't work. So we went with FormAWin. This was a team dinner. This was at an air show with some of our clients, and we have a school community as well. So it's just a great privilege to be able to do this because it's really important for me to change lives, and I'm always super fulfilled when I do that, and I just love every second of it. So that's part of this. One of the major reasons I started this is because of the struggles I went through. You guys only got a fair share. I can easily ramble for 20 hours about all of these little things that I did, right? And it's not a joke when I say I had 25, 50, or 100 mentors. I really did. I was going out networking, coffee chats, coffee dates, and going in-person calls, going X, Y, and Z. There's so much that I did and so much that I struggled with that I just wanted to compress the time frame and make something where we can say, again, this is step 1 out of 10,000, not step 10,000, right? So let's go on to the next slide. This is a little bit more about systems engineering. This is just a snapshot. This is about as technical as we'll get in this presentation, but this is kind of the V curve, if you will. This is systems engineering in a whole. We start with designing it, pulling up the specifications, saying, okay, this is what we need to do, X, Y, and Z requirements, X, Y, and Z system. Okay, now we need to start testing it, validating it, building it, and then once we get it to the point where the buyer of the house is like, okay, this is the house I want, let's do it, make it, we're done. So that's a little short summary for you guys in a nutshell. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit more about FormAWin, kind of going back to some tactics. Next. So I talked about treating your career like a business, right? I need you guys to do that in full, because if you treat your career like a business, it's not just we're here for fun, it's not just we're here to get a job, it's like, okay, this is our lives, right? And we talked about being intentional with everything that we do, and if we're intentional with everything that we do, then that way we can start tracking things and pulling up some metrics and doing different things like that, right? And if you do that, we take it more seriously. So something that I like to talk about here is getting some quantifiable measurements, right? So let's say you apply to 100 jobs, okay? Out of those 100 jobs, we get 3 interviews, okay? That's a number, right? Okay, so all right, so now we know 3 interviews. How many interviews does it take to get an offer? Okay, 9 interviews to get an offer, right? Like we'll have to go through some trial and error to get that, but okay, we just cracked the code, right? So now we need to do 300 applications because 3 interviews times 3, 100 times 3, 300 applications, right? So that's an easy metric for you guys. Sometimes you might view this as, quality versus quantity, but sometimes quantity has a quality of its own. Because if we say, well, instead of the 100 applications, what if we can get it down to 50, right? That's cool, but what does that take? Is that gonna take years of improving skills? Is that gonna take, what's it gonna take to get that down to 50? If it's a month, cool, do it, right? But if it's years, that person can submit 300 applications a lot quicker than that and get super far and experience past that as well, right? So that's just a different view of kind of treating this like a business. I want you guys to really do that, find some different metrics, find some different things that you guys can be creative with, because that's how you guys get ahead. Next. The basics. So I love this cover letter. The biggest thing I like talking about with this is making it relatable. AI is real. It's going to take over, but we're not replacing this. We're not replacing human interaction. You guys are on a team, right? So in your cover letter, what I like to say is to talk about your family, because a lot of people have family. That's typically important to people. That's an easy thing to just connect with someone with. And if they see that, they're going to connect with you, right? You guys getting value out of this? You guys having fun? Yeah, raise your hand. Awesome, you guys are taking notes. I love it. Stay engaged, stay active. Awesome. Resume. This is the next thing as well. You guys probably spend a lot of time working on your resume, making it better, improving it, and I'm all for that. But I need to get this on a t-shirt. Julian knows this for sure. Resumes are like degrees. You need them to get a job, but they're not going to guarantee you to get a job, right? That's the biggest thing. You guys need to kind of crack that, right? Because then if we're not focused on that solely, then we can focus on what's really important, like being intentional with situations and building our business. Next slide. Well, sorry, talking about interviews, you're good. Interviews, I don't believe in preparing for interviews, right? Because if we're intentional with everything we're doing, then I'm not trying to prepare to be someone that I'm not, right? So if that's the case, then you guys don't need to prepare. If it's a technical thing and you know exactly what you need to prepare for, that's a little bit different, but overall in general, are you guys active in your projects? Are you guys taking it seriously? Are you guys working hard? Yes, 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 and yes? Okay, then we don't need to prepare. This is the next thing. I'm sure you guys have Instagram, right? You guys have Instagram? I'm sure you guys have heard people talking about building a personal brand and stuff, right? I mean, everyone and their mothers talk about that to an extent. But for engineers, we don't really talk about it too much. We should. It's important. Just like we're talking about treating this like a business, every connection, every project, every event, everywhere you go, you need to take pictures and document this stuff, right? That's so important, because then that way you can build on it, people can see what you're doing, and then that gives you social proof, and I promise every recruiter, every person that you're working with, everyone is going to look you up on LinkedIn, no matter what. That's always going to happen, and you want to build a good brand. That way that can lead to new opportunities. Maybe someone reaches out from, trying to sell you a pen or something, a few years down the road, they see you're doing really good, and they're like, okay, well, why don't you come here for this project, right? Because that first position is not the end of it, that's only the start of it. That next position might come from you actually being intentional with building your brand. So that's next. Networking. Networking is like building relationships. I love saying this, right? Because relationships are based on value exchange. You need to help someone out, and all these recruiters, they got all the jobs, they got all the things that we love and want, right? And as a student, we don't have too much to give, right? It's kind of like, please give me a job. And I get it. But we have a lot more to give than you think, right? Your energy exchange, how you leave them. I always like leaving people better than I started with them. So if you go into every conversation with that and try to just learn about them, connect with them, make them feel important, that's it, guys. Because a lot of people are just going in there just trying to do a 30-second sales on the pen, right? Next is events. You guys need to go in with a strategy. The biggest thing I like to say here is treat your event approach like a meeting. You need to go in with a meeting. Okay, here's the agenda, here's the result I want, and here's how we're going to get there. If you guys go into every event or career fair or networking situation like that, that's going to help you guys out more than you know, right? So I want you guys to take that to heart, because all this stuff is super important. And I guarantee, maybe only a handful of people go out and apply all these things. But if every single person does, your life is gonna change. Next. Coaching. I have lots of coaches. How many of you have worked with a coach before? In sports or anything, right? I mean, coaches are super important, and I think that we should have coaches in all areas of our life. I'm sure you guys have seen financial coaches or business coaching and like just anything. Like coaches are important because they compress time frames, and especially when you guys have these big goals and big dreams, it's important to learn from these past mistakes, right? That way history doesn't repeat itself. So I love coaching. I have lots of coaches myself. I mean, it's just super important, right? Just like having mentors, like all this stuff is really important, but coaches are there to kind of go to bat for you, fight for you, and hold you accountable a little bit differently. Next. So the next thing is lead by example. We talked about lead scholars before, right? Lead scholars is super cool, but they talk about 20 different types of leaderships. If you guys kind of know, there's transformational leadership, there's this, and that. But I don't think a lot of leaders focus on leading by example. And if you guys as well, right? Because I mean, we're all human again. We all have faults. We all have things that we need to improve on, and it's important that we pick those things out daily and constantly try to improve. If you improve 1% every day, that's 365%. Versus if you only try to improve once a week, right? You guys can see the difference. But leading by example, if all leaders just focused on that daily, like 100%, they're probably going to be better leaders than 99% of the people out there, right? Because it just goes into everything that we do. How you do one thing is how you do everything. You guys need to take that to heart and lead by example with everything. How you treat your family, how you go to Publix and there's a shopping cart out. Do you push the cart back? Do you pick up trash on the floor? What is it, right? So lead by example. Next slide. These are some testimonials that we've had. Again, it's just a blessing to be able to help people get from point A to point B. I just love doing this stuff. It's just, it's really fulfilling because, has anyone helped anyone before in their lives with anything? I mean, how do you feel after that, right? So, it's just the biggest thing. Next. These are some companies that some of our students have gotten hired at. Next. And final message for you guys. I got a little bit more here, but again, it's been an honor. This is kind of just a tidbit. I really love doing this. I really hope you guys got something out of today. But you guys need to take one thing again and apply it. Please don't let this just be another meeting. Don't let these future meetings be just general, casual meetings. You guys need to go to everything with intent. You guys need to come to these, network with the person. Does everyone know everyone in here? No? Kind of? Okay, well, we should know everybody in here, right? This is a super small room. I just spoke at the ASME general body meeting. There's 100 people there, and this is kind of the situation where you guys need to know everyone, right? Because your community, when you guys build this up, it's going to help you guys down the road, long term, but also hold each other accountable, right? Your 2 big goals, I want everybody to remember them, hold them accountable, right? How are we getting there? But again, the biggest thing with going through life, being intentional, and doing all this stuff, is why you're doing it. You need to write down your why, list out the goals, take something I taught you, and do all this stuff. So, guys, thank you so much. Go to the next slide. I just wanted to share one last thing here. This is my car. This is a vision board in my car, right? How many of you guys have vision boards? I love it, but that's your homework for the rest of you, right? That whole GPS thing, you guys need to have it. You guys need to know what we're working towards. It could change monthly. Change it monthly then. That's fine. But this just, you guys need to take your obsession about life to the next level, because we only get one life, right? And you never know who's watching you. You never know who is looking at you as a leader. And if you lead by example with every little thing that you're doing, that's going to help them without you even doing anything, right? So take that to heart, guys. Make everything count. Make every day count. Again, thank you guys so much. Last slide here. Feel free to connect with me. Feel free to email me your resume. Again, that's the easiest thing for me to help with because that's just super easy. I want to make sure you guys aren't worried about that. We're doing a webinar next week. We got a lot of people showing up to that. It's going to be super cool. Some awesome guest speakers. Stay tuned. But yeah, guys, it's been an honor. We got Q&A time.
Awesome.
Love you
so
guys.
much.